Hi, I'm Lucy Harrison and welcome to the ACM After School Club. In today's session, we will be looking at creating sounds for video games. So I'm a composer and sound designer and I specialise in interactive audio. So what that means is I specialise in sound where you do something and the sound reacts. And the great place where that's used a lot is in video game music, which is what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to look at some video game sound effects, a little bit around the music, and we're going to focus on how can you make a really kind of retro piece of sound design similar to the kind of thing that you would get in an old Mario game or a Sonic game. Everything that we're going to do today has a free equivalent. So when I'm using a software, if it is a paid for software, I will tell you the free equivalent that you can use. And also I will talk you through the techniques rather than getting too into the nitty-gritty of any particular software. So money shouldn't be a barrier for you being able to start with this. So the main piece of software we're going to work with for the games design part of things is a piece of software called Unity. Unity is an industry standard in games design. It's used by loads of the big studios. It's one of two pieces of games design software that we do teach. The great thing about Unity is it is free. And it also has lots of kind of interesting games that can get you started. When we start with Unity, we always open from a Unity hub, which looks like this. So again, this is free to download and free to use. Over here on the left, you've got some useful things if you're starting out in games design. In this Learn tab, you've got lots of free games that you can learn to create with, and you can learn how to work with the software if you're wanting to get a bit of a start. We're going to be looking at this platformer micro game. So we're going to be working with a platformer today because it's kind of the closest to the retro feel that we want. I've already downloaded mine ready to go and done a bit of pre-work on it. You click on that and it starts to import across. Then we go to the projects tab, and if you've got it saved, it'll be there. If you've got it saved elsewhere on your computer, if you've you click add and you bring the whole folder in it that way. Mine's already there, so I've got platformer demo. I click on the words themselves and it's going to open up my game. Okay, so this is Unity. We're going to click out of the walkthrough. We're not going to use that today. Walking on the wild side, being rebels. I'm going to exit that walkthrough and close this audio setting window because we don't need this. So this is what Unity looks like. So you've got your game there. This is the scene itself, and this is what it looks like when a game's being built. We have a sample scene over here. This has got everything that's actually in this scene. We have our assets down here. This is any files that we've loaded into the game. And over on the right, we have something called the inspector. This is what we call a dynamic window, which means if you click on things, it changes based on what you're clicking on. From this, we can click on anything in our game and we can see what's actually attached to it. So this is our little player guy. If it's got a little speaker on it, these things here, these little white ones, that means that there is sound in the game ready to be played. So you've got quite a lot of sound in this game, but the good thing is a few of them are all the same things. I've done a little bit of pre-work. I've taken some of the sounds out. I'll go through how you put them back in. But the first thing we do whenever we get a video game is we have a bit of a playthrough and we see what we're working with. So I'm going to put my headphones on so I can hear what you hear. And it's a really simple little game. So we've got a little stick man. We hit play on the top and that opens them up. And this is our little guy. It's WASD, WASD to make him run around. Spacebar to jump. And you can see we've got little collectibles. And we've got enemies. These are the pre-made sound effects. We're going to replace them because quite frankly, we can do better. But what you can see is we've got a little retro feel. We can look around and we kind of sort it like that. Our little guy can die as well. So he dies, he respawns. So we've got a few things. I'm going to click off that. So what we need to do is we need to make a note of what we have and what we need to replace. So if it's got a little speaker, we need to replace it. So we've got our little guy here. And you can see over on the right, he has jump sounds, respawn sounds, ouch audio. And we can see if it's got a little orange thing, that then means that it's audio. So you've got 3 sounds in there. The collectibles have a little sound, so you want a little sound for our collectibles. I'm just making a note, which is best practice for doing this. And what else have we got? Little blob man, he's got some sounds as well. Let's click on him. He's got a land on enemy sound. All right, we've also got some music. I've preloaded the music in, and I'll talk you through just how I prepare music for a game like this in a bit. So that's all we need. We're going to come out this window, and I'm going to just open up a DAW session. I'm going to do this in Logic Pro. There's a couple of free DAWs. So DAW is a digital audio workstation. There's a couple of free ones that you can use in place of this. So I'm using Logic. The free version of that, if you're using a Mac, is GarageBand. If you're using a PC, the free thing that I recommend is Cakewalk, which is a good free one. Basically, any piece of music software that has a synth in it, we're going to use for this because we're going to do some retro sounds. I'm going to open up an empty project and I'm going to choose my favorite synth. I'm using one called Pigments, and I'm just using Pigments today because it's good to demo on. You can get a free demo of Pigments. It's by a company called Arturia, but any synth will do what I'm doing today. It's just that this is a good one for me to demo on. So things like Retro Synth will do it, or any of the free synths that you can download online will do it, because we're doing some very basic things today. So I'm going to create on that. So I'm going with a synth sound if we want something kind of retro Mario-like, because we're looking at kind of the history of video game sound. And way back in the beginnings of video games, our chips were really, really tiny. So now we can do full orchestral sounds. But early in video games, we had 8-bit chips, and 8-bits are teeny, teeny, tiny. If you think the standard storage on your iPhone now is 8 gigabytes, we're looking teeny. We're looking at like not even a fraction of what your iPhone can do. And in those early times, sound files took up loads and loads of space. So there wasn't the space for them to go on video games. So what people used to do for music is they would hack into parts of the chip and make it do the music on really, really small storage. So you wouldn't be able to record audio in, you'd be hacking into the chip and programming it to make different sounds, which means we were quite limited in what we could do. If we want to emulate that kind of sound, so if we want to make a similar sound to that, we use synths, because that's the closest we're going to get. There are chiptune emulators if you really want to get into it, but we're going to use a synth today. And we're going to make it as basic as possible. So let me open a really basic template. And as I said, you don't need this to do it. I'm just doing this because it's got a nice interface and I can really show you what I'm doing. But Retro Synth does it, Massive does it, Alchemy does it. Any of the other synths that you may have heard of will do what we're doing today. And I'm going to work with an analog synth. Early synths, the analog synths, were run with oscillators, and we had a few waves that were kind of standard ones. So we had a sine wave, which is this nice curvy one. Let me turn on my musical typing so you can see what I'm doing. That had this kind of sound, so it's a nice smooth sound. We also had a triangle wave, which sounds like this. We had a sawtooth wave, which is a messier wave. And we had a square wave, and a square wave pulses on or off. The square wave is the sound of early video games. That's what we had, the square waves. We had square waves, we had white noise, and we also could kind of round them out with a bit of triangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with 2 of these waves. And the first one I'm going to do is a square wave. I'm going to put a little bit of white noise behind it. Let's turn this down so you can hear what white noise sounds like. White noise sounds like this. We're only going to use a little bit of that. Just makes it a bit messier behind. I'm going to put some of this in. And I'm going to do a little bit of our triangle wave just to soften it. And this is the sound of early video games, basically. And this is what we're going to use for all of our sounds that we're going to come up with. So the first thing we want our little guy to have a jump sound. And that is dead easy to do, because we're going to start with a nice kind of positive sound. And this is where our sound design becomes interesting, because we look at what the sound is actually saying in a game. So we say, is it a positive sound? Is it a negative sound? Is it telling our player how to play the game? So we've got certain things that we do in our platformer sound effects. So if we want something positive, if we want something to jump, we send it up like it's jumping. So we're going to choose something positive. We're going to choose, let's go for K might be a bit, that C there might be a bit too, kind of too much. Let's start with the G. I also feel like we've got a bit too much on that end. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to work with our pitch shift. So you can see we've got coarse on here and we can shift up and down semitones. What we want for our little jumping guy, by the way, Mario's original name was Jumpman because he jumped so much, is we want something where it's going to jump. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to automate this pitch shift so it just shifts up. On here, I do it by attaching. I'm going to do it by attaching an envelope, which is one of these guys here. You can see when I click on that, you get that slide up and slide down. I'm going to attach one of these to this. Every software, every synth will give you an option to do this. It's just I like how this one does it, so I'm going to do that. And we can hear from that, it's not quite where we want it to be. It's going a bit too far. That one's going a bit too slow. We're going to take that away. Maybe send it a little bit higher, actually. We're going to go to that envelope 2 again. I'm going to put him a little bit. And then it's about choosing the right note to do it on. And once we've got one that we like, what we're going to do is we're going to hit record. We don't even need to do a countdown, really. I'm going to record a few. And what we're going to do is, if we've got ones like at the beginning where we could hear it come down at the end, we're just going to open it in our MIDI editor. So MIDI stands for Music Instrument Digital Interface. MIDI is just when you get those sounds in, and we're just going to edit it down. I'm going to turn off my snap because that's going to give me more space to kind of move on. That's the one. I'm not sure about the pitch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set my bounce regions, and bounce is when you just export a sound. And I'm just going to file, bounce, project tool section. I'm going to send out as PCM. I'm going to put it on my desktop so I actually know it's there. You can kind of call it bounce demo. we're going to take that one out and we're going to put it in the game. So, a nice bouncy sound. Let's now go back to our Unity. We've got that here, and we're going to bring our sound into the game. So we've got a folder that is audio. And what we're going to do is we're just going to find our file that we've just made, which is that one there. I'm going to drag it in. And then I'm going to find where I want to attach it. So what I've got is I've got my little man. And I can search for him at the top. He's my player. I click on that. And you can see here I've got jump, death, hurt. There's a couple of ways that I can change this. If I click on that little dot there, I get all my sounds. Or we can do it the much quicker way, which is we just drag it in and we've got our bounce demo there. When I hit play now, let's come out of this. When I hit play and he lands in the scene. Every time he jumps, we get our little Mario jump sound. Nice. So we've got a couple of others that we need to do. Now that we've got the basic workflow, I'm going to do these all in one go so that we can kind of get through and see what our symbolism would be for some of these others. So I need a little positive sound for when I collect my audio. What I'm going to do, I'm going to mute those bounce. I'm going to label this track bounce so it's there if I need it again. And I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to have the exact same synth for everything. Now that we've got the synth right, we're going to work with it. Just that same sound for everything. When we're looking at retro sounding video games, we want that consistency of sound because you wouldn't actually have the chance to bring in many other sounds on early video games. So that kind of 8-bit sound, everything's going to be the same, just because of the limits of the technology. Okay, so our collect sound, let's call this our collect one. I'm just going to make sure that I'm not doing that automation anymore. We don't need our little jump sound, but we do need something positive rising up. So I've taken the little automation off. It's no longer going to automate based on that envelope. But we want something positive and we want it to sound like a ding. And that's because we've been conditioned to think of these things this way. So our Mario sound is a very classic, it's a rising fourth. And that's on Mario. However, that is very copyrighted. So we can go for some other things. We can go for like a rising fifth, which is a very positive, strong sound. So we could go for like G to D. Sounds a little bit superhero-y though. Most of your superhero themes are based on that. Or we could go for a third, not that positive, or we can go for a different fifth, fourth even. I'm going to take it to maybe a sixth. It's not great. Let's go for a fifth. What we're going to do is we're just going to, if we want this to sound more bell-like, and remember, bell is a very positive like thing for us. We look at our envelopes and we look at our VCA, that's our voltage amplitude one. And that looks at attack, decay, sustain, release. And that's how our volume is controlled. If we make that longer, it takes a big fade in. If we make that shorter, we get a nice. So I'm going to take it around about to there. I'm going to make that really short. Let's think about what key we're going to work in. Why don't we make this even higher pitched as well? Okay, that seems right. And like a good octave. Not sure about the F. No, let's go for the F. And we're going to do the same. We're going to do a little bit of editing because my recording isn't that quick. And also let's give this some options so we can test a few things in the game. Oh, that's nice. Let's go higher. Let's see what that's like. So we've got a nice rising fifth. It's nice and positive. And we're going to do a bit of editing as well, because we're going to make this quicker than I can play it when I'm typing in on a keyboard. We're just going to do a little bit of an edit. Make this much quicker. See what we've got. And let's go for our higher pitched one. Let's see what that sounds like. The trick is there's a little bit of trial and error when we do things like this. So we want to see what works. So we were there. We could go higher actually. Let's go for an octave. That's 8 notes apart. That's my collect sound. I like the sound of that. So what I've done there, that's an octave. So that's 8 notes apart, and I've just made them really quick together, and it's got a really short attack and a really short release. So it's really, really kind of blippy sounding. And I'm going to bounce that. I'm going to bounce a project or section, take that PCM out. I'm going to call that our token demo. Okay, so we've got our jumps done, our collectibles done. We need a respawn sound. Okay. Let's put our token in the game first, and then we know that it's in. So what I've done is I've made all my tokens in the game prefab. So the reason why I've done that is it means that I can edit one and they all get edited. So it's like a template in the game and they all have the same sound and music and stuff attached to it. It means you edit once, it changes all kind of 20, 30, 40 of something that you've got. The way that you do it is I have a prefab folder here. I've added a little diamond into the game that isn't a prefab so that you can see what it is. What you do is you have it in the prefabs, you take it and you just drag it into there. That makes it a prefab. That means it's existing. It's always going to be in the game. And you can edit one, it will edit all of them. Let me delete that though, because I did that to demonstrate. We don't need it. Let's take that one out of the game as well. So all my tokens are on prefabs, which means I can edit them all at the same time. The way that you do that, you find it down there, or you find them up here, and you click open prefab, and it opens the whole thing. And you can see this has got a little sound attached to it. It says collectible. We're going to replace that with hours. First, we need to bring hours into the game. So I'm going to drag in that token demo there. I'm going to go back to my prefab here. And I'm just going to bring that in. That's now in the game. When I hit play, it should be when he runs into them now. You've got our little prefab sound. Oddly, that one there had a completely different sound attached. Let's see what's going on with this guy. Okay. That one is not our prefab. That's interesting. Let's just replace that for now. And this is why we test our games. So we're going to change that one from bounce test. That's going to be token demo. Interesting. Go on. There we go. There we go. That's all our sounds in there. We've got a nice little positive collection sound. It's sounding good. Also within this, so let's get us some ouch sounds. If we want something to sound like it's causing us harm, we want something dissonant. A consonant sound is a sound that sounds good together. A dissonant sound is a sound that sounds bad. We also tend to do lower sounds for dissonance. So again, I've just duplicated my track there. I've got the same synth. I'm going to look at some dissonant ones. So we're going to bring it down a little bit lower, a couple of octaves down. I'm going to be in the right track. Kind of dissonant. let's just do a note mash. That sounds good. Those two are good. They're dissonant because you can see there on the musical typing, we've got nothing in between them. There's nothing in between them. That means it's a semitone. It means it clashes. So a nice bit of dissonance. Okay, so we're just going to record a bit of dissonance, nice and simple. See what we've got. That'll do it. We don't need to overthink that one. Let's put a nice loop around it. And then always have your loop region set. We're going to bounce that one, project or section. And that's going to be our ouch sound. Ouch demo. We're going to bring that one out and we're going to put it in the game. Let's go back to it here. Ouch was attached to our player, so we're going to find him there. Ouch is that one. We're going to bring it in, just drag it in there. Where is that ouch? That one there. Going to go back to our player. Because I clicked off it and we've got a dynamic window, it changes. Nice negative sound. Okay, I'm going to hit save at this point because this is where things... Oh yeah, it doesn't save when you're in play mode. So I'm going to hit save. I'm going to come out from this and we're going to do our respawn. Our respawn is a bit of a triumphant. It's like you've got a chance to start again. If we want something triumphant, let's just duplicate this. If you want a triumphant sound, that means it's a really positive thing. So this is where we work with our fifths again. So we might go. You just want something really positive. Might take it up an octave. We just do a nice little nice and strong sounding. And I'm going to go through and edit this. I'm going to do something called, I'm going to move it onto the beat because this I actually want to be musical. I know that my music is in crotchet equals 180. So I'm going to move that up to 180 there. And I'm going to move this onto the beat. I can do this by dragging, and I can also do something called quantize. What quantize does is it just shifts it into time. And it's on this Q thing here on logic. Some other place it'll be elsewhere, and we're going to do it by eighths. That's by quaver notes, if you're doing theory that way. That doesn't really do what we want though. That's almost taking it too far. So I'm going to just nudge it so it sounds like I want it to. I feel like I need an extra note in, so I might just draw one as well. Further up, I might draw a G in. And this is where we get to a bit of instinct, really. Okay. I'm wondering if maybe that's what I need. That sounds better. So this is where we get to instinct and compositional kind of gut instincts of just what sounds good. So I went for that because it just sounds a bit more positive because it's really rising. So we've got da-da-da-da, which is a nice positive going upwards. Okay, So what we're going to do again, we're going to set our loop regions and we're just going to bounce this out. Bounce, project selection, PCM, respawn. Anyone who's worked with me will know that my file names always have spelling mistakes in. I like to catch them, it doesn't always work. Okay, let's go back to our game. You all know the drill now. We've got our respawn demo here. And we've got our respawn audio goes in here. It's linked to our player. We've got our respawn. Let's drag it in. Let's have a listen. Ta-da! So he's respawned. Nice, ready to go. Okay, we've got our ouch sound. We just need a sound for landing on our enemy, which is this little guy here, these little blobby things. At the moment, the demo soundtrack makes a little fart sound, which is very funny, but not necessarily fitting with the rest of the things that we do. So again, we want something positive for this, because that's what we want to do. We want to land on him, but we want it to seem like we're falling down. So where our jump goes up, we want our land on him to go down. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to duplicate. I've realised I've not been naming my tracks. Bad form, Harrison. We're going to duplicate the original bounce sound. And we're going to call it enemy bounce. And I'm going to I'm going to open up that one. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to do the exact opposite. So we're going to take that envelope that we detached there. We're going to take it downwards. So we've got just the opposite is going to happen. And we're going to really cheat and we're going to make this the complete opposite. And we're going to copy the MIDI that we had in before. We're going to paste it into this track because MIDI is just files. But it will just read whatever instrument you have across. So it won't bring the instrument across. So let's see. I like the middle one, I think. Let's have a look at this guy. But what I kind of want with this is I want him to be a little bit lower. That doesn't sound quite right. What note were we on before? We were on E before. Yeah. In fact, let's make it an even lower E. That sounds too negative now. We want it to be like a fun sound. We're going to bounce that one out. And you can see wherever I've got that, that's what it's going to bounce out for us. And take that. And we're going to call it enemy underscore bounce. And putting the underscore in for everything, because sometimes, I've just noticed the spelling mistake, sometimes when we put things into computer programs, they don't like it if you have spaces in there. So we just keep that kind of enemy thing, that underscore between them, and that just allows the computer program to read it properly. So let's go back to this. We're going to bring across our enemy. And this guy, this enemy is a prefab. So we're going to go to enemy, and you can see him there. And what we're going to do, we're going to find him in the prefabs, I think. Here he is. We're going to open the prefab, and that should have our land on enemy there. Yeah. We're going to find our audio in here, and that's going to change it for all of those. Enemy bounce. And now, when we land on our enemy in the game, ta-da! So now we've got all our sounds work together. They all go together. So the only thing missing is music. And I made the music in advance because we didn't want to go through all of these, but I want to talk you through what I did to get that music together. Let's just call this After School Effects so that I don't lose the work that I did. And I'm going to open my music track just so that you can see how I prepared it. And close that, open a new one. There we go. So this is my music for the game. And when you prepare music for a video game, and for one like this, you have to make sure that it's loopable. And there's a real trick to that with 8-bit music. So first of all, you can see I've built it up in layers. Let's have a listen. So what have we got here? Well, all of our synth sounds are pretty much what we've made before with the sound effects. So we've got our square waves, we've got our triangle waves, we've got a little bit of white noise in there. Our snare sound is mostly white noise. You can see we've got our engine 2. It is nearly all white noise. Everything else has been turned down. So that's our snare, which has that kind of sound. That was a preset that came with it. I'm going to cop to that. I didn't make that one. But the trick that you have is you start and end in something 8-bit with your drum beat, and Mario's music does this. That's the start of my loop. That's the end of my loop. And you can see seamless because it's the most simple part. So I'm not trying to link together anything really complex. I'm just looping drum beats. So it's all very simple how it's going to come together. So I've already bounced this one out and I'm going to put it into the game so that we get our full thing. Let's come out of that prefab. So the music here is attached to the game controller and it goes in this audio source here. You can see I've already got my music in there. It plays on awake. That means it plays as soon as you switch it on and it loops around automatically. So the game's going to loop it for me. And I can change the volume as well. So I might just, yeah, that's quite low volume already. There we go. And that's our game. If we want to turn this into a standalone, all you need to do is you go to build settings, you set it up for the system that you're on, you hit build and run, and it'll start compiling your game together as something that you can actually share and play. But that is essentially it. So I hope you've enjoyed going through some of those retro things. Again, most of the software that we've used has a free equivalent. If you want a good DAW, in terms of synths, you can get the kind of synths you need to do this kind of thing on GarageBand if you're looking at free ones, and on Cakewalk if you're looking at free for PC. This is all done on Unity, and the game itself is in the Learn section on Unity, and it is the platform and micro game that we used for this. We'd love to see you have a try of this. We'd love to see what you come up with. I hope that you do. We hope that you learned something new, and we'd love to hear about your own creations. So please tag us in and use the hashtag ACM Club on social media. And if you'd like to learn more about our game development pathway at ACM, please book an open day at acm.ac.uk/open days, and we'll see you for the next session soon.
If you're dreaming of a career in the creative industries, then look no further than ACM's brand new Digital Open Day experience. Tour our facilities, meet our tutors, and immerse yourself in industry. To find out more and register, head to acm.ac.uk/open days.